Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Flavor and Fiction. So first of all, how are you guys doing? It's been, I don't know, this is day like 720 of quarantine. I don't know anymore. I'm going to try hard not to show my nails. I keep wanting to push up my glasses and I'm like, I don't want to show my quarantine nails. They're not pretty. But I hope everyone's being safe and doing what you can to get by. Go ahead and work on a project if you want to. Go ahead and sleep all day if you want to. Do whatever you can to feel good and get through this quarantine because it's a mess out here. Okay, so the category for this read was a book, a nonfiction or fiction book about adoption. And I went the nonfiction route. It seemed easier, honestly. And I chose a book called, I'm going to hold it up while trying not to show my quarantine nails. Okay. It's called Rock Meets River. You can't even see that anyway. I'll put up a picture here. It's called Rock Needs River, a memoir about a very open adoption by Vanessa McGrady. And I guess before reading this, I had a different idea about open adoption. I thought open adoption was when, the birth parents, they want to know something about the kid's life. So, you mail them pictures and update them from afar. Vanessa went a slightly different way. So she starts out very honestly telling us about her life. She does not mince words or try to paint a pretty picture about some of her decisions earlier in life, just bad choices when it comes to relationships, not really caring about her future sometimes, just bouncing back and forth between relationships and like sometimes muddy relationships with like coworkers or married men. So she definitely paints us a picture. And then when she's in a relationship with someone and it's like, kind of light, she decides that she wants to have a baby, that she wants to experience motherhood. So she tries to get serious about relationships. So she gets into a relationship with this older man who, it's not the best relationship, but she ends up getting pregnant. And so she's determined to make it work. But then she has a miscarriage and she's like 99% devastated, 1% relieved because now she can find the right partner. She meets a man who's married at the time, has an affair with him. He leaves the wife once the wife finds out, big drama. They eventually end up together and things are not perfect. They're not pretty. Yes, they want to be together, but he has 2 daughters to worry about. It's a messy situation, but they decide to stick it out and to be together. They had some ups and downs, a lot of drama from his divorce. Financially, he wasn't doing that well. They had a chance to adopt a baby, but Peter thought it was too soon. So they didn't, and they lost out on that chance. And then, after Vanessa turns, I think she's 41 at this point, they decide, you know what, let's do it. Let's do adoption. So they do the whole process the right way. They're spending lots of money. They're waiting to hear for this and that. She even joined support groups for people who are waiting on adoption. And she'd see people come in, months later and be like, oh, this is the little boy we've been waiting for. And, she was starting to get a little antsy. And then she ended up hearing, I think through a friend or through a grapevine about this couple, this young girl who was not ready to be a mother. I think the father was, their names were Bill and Bridget. And Bill was a musician and kind of just a Rolling Stone, if you will. And Bridget was just sort of like his groupie / wife. She just depended on him for everything. And they just felt that they were so poor and they just felt like a child is not what they wanted. So they met with her a little bit, and at first, Bill seemed, he sent a lot of communication that sounded like he was asking for money for, like he was trying to extort the situation a little bit. She, of course, agreed to pay for all of their medical expenses, but then they were asking for more and more. And, she gave in because she really believed that they were going to give up the baby. And in a twist, a surprise twist of events, she actually did get the baby. Here's the thing, though. At the hospital, there were a lot of medical professionals. Once they learned that Bridget was giving the baby up for adoption, they tried everything in their power to talk her out of it. They wanted her to keep the baby. I don't know if they felt that that Vanessa was taking advantage of them because they were young or whatever, but they would separate Bill and Bridget and like browbeat them and try to, I believe it was like a Christian facility. So they really used religion and guilt to try to force Bridget to keep this baby. But in the end, she decided to give it to Vanessa. So it was a little girl named Grace. And so like I said, I thought the open adoption part was going to be her just keeping them up to date. But she got a little too involved in their lives as far as I'm concerned. It started with like, oh, we're going to the park every once in a while. You guys want to meet us there and play with her? And they did that, and they showed pictures and all that. But then she would give them money and give them things. Now, granted, they were poor and in like a bad situation. But she just kept doing way too much. Like she found them, she went out of her way to find them better housing for a little while and get a job interview that they wouldn't show up for. She just kept trying to do too much for them until finally one day one of her friends told her, like, you are Grace's mother, not their mother. And so she had to let go a little bit. It was becoming too much of a strain. And when Grace started showing symptoms of like withdrawing a little bit, that's when she was like, okay, this might be too much for me. So like once she started getting some pushback from her daughter, she was like, okay, maybe we need a little bit more space. And then for a long time, like they disappeared. They disappeared. She didn't see them. They stopped answering her emails. Like once the gifts and the money and all that stopped, the communication stopped. And it wasn't until she contacted them about this book, about getting their story for this book, that that they actually responded. And in doing that, it's the first time that she found out from their viewpoint that they felt really belittled by all the hospital staff and by so many people around them for making this decision to give up a child. They felt harshly judged, and I would honestly be interested in reading a book from their perspective, to be honest. I feel like this book moved too quickly in some parts and a little too slow in others, but all in all, I enjoyed it. I feel like it was an honest account. I feel like it opened my eyes to some of the trials of having an open adoption. It was an interesting read, and I do recommend it. And now you're probably wondering, well, that's the fiction part or nonfiction part of this video. What is the flavor part? Well, in this book, Vanessa mentioned that her idea of the perfect working mother, or like, no, what was it? Oh, that in her mind, a working mother's best friend was Chinese food delivery. So obviously during this time, we are not doing delivery. As a matter of fact, the Chinese food place that I normally go to is closed down. I hope they are able to reopen when this is over. But I've decided to make my own Chinese food. So I made shrimp fried rice, and it was the easiest shortcut recipe. Frozen this, frozen that. But it didn't take that many ingredients. Most of them you may have. Like I already had the rice. I already had soy sauce. So I was like, oh, I'm halfway there. It was great. I used frozen shrimp, which you'll see in the video. So it came out really good, but if I, when I make it again, and I will make it again, I just have to make sure not to overcook that frozen shrimp. So I'm gonna go ahead now and insert the video for shrimp fried rice. Enjoy. Okay, so first things first, we're gonna start with our shrimp. I got frozen, it's cooked and cleaned shrimp. And you're supposed to use about half a pound because the recipe I'm putting up is going to be for a serving of 6, but I don't need all that, so I'm going to cut it in half. So I'm going to do a half pound of shrimp. I already got my rice cooking over here. Okay, so we have the shrimp in here with a little bit of vegetable oil. Now we're going to add in our frozen peas and carrots. You'll have to excuse my struggle quarantine manicure. It's a mess. Okay, we got the carrots and peas mixed in. And now we're going to add in a tablespoon of the sesame oil. Okay, after 3 to 5 minutes, you're going to push the mixture to the side because you're going to scramble your egg over here. And you can use 1 or 2, whatever you're fancy. I'm going to use 1. And when this is done, you're just going to mix this all together. Okay, now we're going to dump in the rice. Just dumping on in there. And we're going to add our soy sauce, salt and pepper, and mix. Okay, here's the finished product. I've already tasted it, and it's delicious. And I already know I'm going to add some more soy sauce to my portion because I'm obsessed with soy sauce. But this is just a quick and easy stir-fried rice. I know it's not the way you're supposed to do it with frozen, whatever. But I also made a mistake of draining a little bit of the water. Yeah, don't do that because it's going to get dry. Bon appetit. As you can see, it came out amazing. It was delicious. And I have enough to do this maybe like 2 or 3 more times. So I'll definitely be doing it this week. I hope you enjoyed the summary. I hope you enjoyed the recipe. And I hope that you stay healthy and happy and have 1,000 books to read during this quarantine. And I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Flavor and Fiction.